Judge Gagnon, Mr. Strickland, my name is Carl Smith. I don't challenge the need to upgrade line 65, but I do adamantly oppose construction of transmission towers across the Rappahannock. I believe the lower Rappahannock is a treasure, one that is every bit as worthy as Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, and the Great Smoky Mountains of being protected. It is special, it is unique, and it belongs to all Americans, not just all Virginians. It deserves to be protected, and it most certainly does not belong to Dominion. Sadly, it appears Dominion doesn't see it that way, but that shouldn't come as a surprise because, after all, Dominion is a corporation, business, whose goal is to make money. Now, there's nothing wrong with a business making money, but unlike most businesses, Dominion is a monopoly, and they get to make their money without the threat of competition. And history has taught us where that often leads: arrogance and indifference to the consumer. In my humble opinion, that is what has happened at Dominion. Absent the salutary influence of competition, Dominion has grown arrogant, indifferent to the consumer, and something worse. They have developed at the corporate level a culture of deception. I'm not the first to express that opinion. A quick review of other controversial projects reveals it is a common complaint. This evening, for the sake of brevity, I wish to highlight just a handful of the many examples of deceptive and misleading practices we have observed over the course of the past year in dealing with Dominion. First, Dominion sought to evade the jurisdiction of the SCC altogether by claiming this project was no more than a wreck and rebuild of an existing 115 kilovolt line, and therefore did not require SCC review or approval. Never mind that the proposed towers, the cross arms, the cables were all designed for 230 kV. Dominion argued it was just a 115 line because that's all they intended to run through it. The SCC quickly saw through the subterfuge and blocked Dominion from proceeding. Second, while claiming the project as a simple wreck and rebuild, Dominion quietly obtained legislative authority for a new right-of-way that included vacating a portion of the Baylor oyster grounds. Dominion argued their plan was nothing more than a, quote, ordinary extension or improvement in the usual course of business, end quote, as allowed by law. But what better defines a new line than a new right-of-way, which is what they were required to get in order to build the line that they wanted to build across the Rappahannock. Once again, the SCC wasted no time in disposing of this perverse logic. Third, when Dominion submitted their proposal to the BMRC, the estimated cost of the project was listed as $10 million. Now, once the BMRC approved the application, the price shot up to $30 million. What happened, we asked? Dominion's explanation: they didn't know the actual depth of the river when they prepared their lower estimate. Now, how could that be? The depth of the river has been known since it was first explored by Captain John Smith in 1602. It happens to be listed on every NOAA chart for the Chesapeake and the Rappahannock. In my belief, Dominion submitted the lower estimate in order to make the cost of any alternative installation, such as an HDD installation under the riverbed, appear prohibitively expensive by comparison. Fourth, we come to the subject of photo simulations. We're told by Dominion spokesman that these simulations are provided to, quote, help people conceptualize what the outcome might look like. Certainly that's important. After all, how would citizens, local elected officials, and even the regulatory agencies make informed decisions about a project in the absence of such simulations? Fortunately, with today's computer technology and digital photographic equipment, it's all very sophisticated. It is a simple matter to make accurate, high-quality visual simulations. It's not brain surgery. Dominion takes evident pride in the job they have done on this project. In a letter dated May 2nd, just barely a month ago, Dominion spokesman said, and I quote, "The visual simulations," he wrote this in defense of the simulations that Dominion has shown on this project today. He said, "The visual simulations that we have presented thus far provide an accurate, illustrated representation of the proposed overhead solution." I repeat, accurate, illustrated representation of the overhead solution, to which I say, no, they have not. In my opinion, almost without exception, every photo simulation Dominion has presented for this project has been highly manipulated to diminish the visual effects of the towers. A detailed account of these deceptive simulations may be found in my correspondence with Dominion, a copy of which has been submitted to the SCC. Here is a brief sampling of the mischief Dominion has engaged in. First, when Dominion briefed Lancaster County Board of Supervisors in May 2015, they presented no visual simulations whatsoever, not one. They acknowledged the importance of these simulations, but when they briefed the Board of Supervisors here in Lancaster, they did not present a single visual simulation. Later, they would claim to have, quote, fully disclosed all project details as early as 2014. Not true. Number two, when Dominion appeared before the VMRC last summer, they presented images taken from such a distance, one could barely detect the bridge, much less the proposed house. Now, right there in front of you are two images that were presented to the VMRC so that they could make an informed decision on what the towers would look like. These are before and after pictures, as you can clearly tell. Now, in an excess of caution, just in case the VMRC was not convinced by these two pictures, Ian, help me out with one click. They presented this. This was the second image. There you go again, believe it or not. You're looking at the bridge and the towers in a before and after picture prepared by Dominion Tower. I suggest that this is not helpful. What can you say? Number three, Dominion has repeatedly displayed visual simulations with towers in the wrong location and size incorrectly at the open house hosted by Dominion in Whitestone in February this year. Every photo on display depicted towers of the wrong height. Dominion representatives acknowledged that to be true. What's more, at that same open house, not a single simulation, not one, depicted the 9-foot-high, 150-foot-long fenders that Dominion planned to place in the center chamber. The fenders were omitted entirely, and it wasn't until we complained that they produced subsequently photos that included the fenders. Dominion has repeatedly shown a particular simulation that blatantly misrepresents the path of the towers. Now, what you see here is the bridge coming across the river, and immediately to the right of that, cheek to jowl, is the line of towers. But in this line, and this is the photo image that Dominion created and displayed for almost close to a year, you'll see that this line of towers wanders off away from the bridge, and it ends up on the Lancaster side, 1,800 feet from the bridge. It should be 86 feet from the bridge. This is blatantly misleading and deceptive. Sixth, Dominion simulation, this one. This is a photo taken from the Lancaster side, looking toward Middlesex. Depicts only 3 towers between the bank and the center channel. There are 5 towers in the plan. Now, why are there not 5 towers displayed? I suggest, once again, this was an intent to mislead. Now, why do these simulations matter? The answer is simple. Because they, quote, help people conceptualize what the outcome might look like. And that means us, the public, our elected leaders, and regulatory agencies. To the best of our knowledge, not a single regulatory agency was shown visual simulations that accurately depicted the appearance of Dominion's proposed towers. Not surprisingly, two organizations, the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation and Virginia Outdoors Foundation, recently changed their original positions after seeing more accurate depictions of the towers. It is reasonable to believe that the VMRC, the Coast Guard, the DEQ, the Army Corps of Engineers, and other agencies might also change their initial positions if they too were shown accurate simulations. Just recently, within the past few days, Dominion has added some new simulations to the record. I'm told they have corrected some of the more egregious errors noted above and have added views that should have been included from the very beginning. But here we are, nearly a full year after the VMRC, the DEQ, the Coast Guard, and the Army Corps of Engineers and other agencies approved Dominion's initial plan for towers, and we're just now beginning to get the truth. Does this look like a good faith effort to inform the public in a timely fashion? Not to me. I'm going to close with one final example of Dominion's culture of deception. Last fall, one of our local citizens asked a very senior Dominion executive about the viability of an underground installation. He was told such an installation was, quote, not an option for a line of this size and length. I'll say it again. He was told underground installation is not an option for a line of this size and length. Now bear in mind that Dominion had just recently finished the installation of the York River underground line that was a mile, almost 1.2 miles longer than the Rappahannock would be, and it was the same voltage, 230 kV. So they had very recent experience with such an HDD application. But yet they told our citizen, this individual told our citizen, that it was not an option for a line this size and length. That is patently false. It is outrageously false. It is what Mark Twain liked to call a real whopper. I conclude by saying that in my opinion, Dominion does not come to the court with clean hands. They have engaged in a consistent campaign to deceive and mislead the public and state regulatory agencies on this project. Dominion does not deserve to be rewarded for this misconduct. I urge you to preserve the irreplaceable beauty of the Rappahannock and direct Line 65 be installed under the river. Thank you for this opportunity.
Sure.
Mr. Smith, are you involved in the party identified as the Save the Rappahannock Coalition?
I am.
Do you hold a title?
I am. I'm the president.
Are you testifying in your capacity as president of that organization?
No.
Or personal capacity? The correspondence you referenced, has that been filed in the docket in this proceeding?
Which correspondence?
You referenced a number of letters, it sounded like.
Oh,
in your
they are.
testimony.
Yes.
They've been filed in the docket?
Yes, indeed.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You may be excused.